But look, there's loads to get on with tonight. But first of all, let's look at this Conor Benn situation. Last week, a week after the WBC had, in inverted commas, exonerated him from knowingly putting clomiphene in his body twice and not cheating. They didn't believe he was a drugs cheat. He came out last week and said, no, the eggs was not the defence I put forward. That was something that the WBC requested from me. My nutritional my nutritional kind of details from camp last year ahead of the Chris Eubank fight, the scuppered Chris Eubank fight. And his key points in a big statement he put out last week was that at no point did Conor Benn himself indicate that contaminated eggs caused the failed VADA test. The WBC had concluded this. The report by Benn's science and legal team concluded there was clear irregularities and flaws, to quote, with testing procedures. The first sample came back clear 3 times. Only when it was retested, he's claiming, 9 days later, the test showed a trace positive result. And for your information, tests should only be tested once and the lab could lose its accreditation for such misconduct. The lab, I assume they're talking about, is a WADA lab, because VADA just test and then they take the samples to a WADA lab. Benn has requested his B sample be tested at the earliest opportunity. Fighters are legally allowed an independent scientist present when the B samples are tested, and Benn's scientist was not allowed in the room, he's also claimed in his report. The substance stays in your system for months. Benn passed his UCAD test barely a week after failing the VADA test. The saga continues. It gets deeper. Spencer, we've been across this story now for over 5 months. What are your findings? What have you learnt this week?
Well, I think we're in a situation now with Conor Benn where he has to engage with the British Boxing Board of Control. You know, he's gone to the WBC. The WBC have released a statement putting him back into the rankings. He still wasn't happy with that, with the WBC using the eggs as the reason for the possibility of Conor Benn having this substance in his system. He needs to engage with the British Boxing Board of Control. He needs to confront them, and if he's, you know, if he can prove his innocence, do it with the British Boxing Board of Control, because they are waiting to hear from him. You know, they want Conor Benn to get his licence back. They want him to prove his innocence, as we all do.
Exactly.
But we can only go on, Gareth, what we know. And what we know right now is he's failed not 1 test, but 2 tests of VADAs that have come up with this substance in it. So, you know, it's very difficult. He passed a UCAD test, but the UCAD test was taken after the VADA testings. So there was 2 tests that he failed, and he
in
passed
July and September.
And then he passed the UCAD one, which was the last one that was done. I spoke to Robert Smith from the British Boxing Board, the General Secretary of the British Boxing Board of Control. I spoke to him today, and he said, we're still waiting to hear from Conor Benn's team. We'd like to sit him down, have a hearing, and then we can try and get to the bottom of this mess, because that's what it is. It's a mess. And at the moment, you know, so I know Conor's unhappy with, you know, certain people talking about this stuff all the time, but we have to talk about it. We have to talk about it because it's news and it's not been cleared up. You know, it's like if he wants to clear his name, he's got to sit down in front of the British Boxing Board of Control, and that's the only one that he doesn't seem to be wanting to sit down at the moment. He feels that there's an agenda against him.
No, I don't. I've never seen an agenda against him.
There isn't one.
No, there isn't.
What is it?
We both talked to the Boxing Board of Control privately and publicly, and there is no agenda against him. They just want to see the report and his evidence go in front of them.
Yeah.
I think everyone wants to see Conor Benn get on. He's a likeable character. He's good for British boxing. He's on the cusp of being a major star. But just to recap with it, he's saying he has serious concerns about the testing system in boxing. He's questioning the whole veracity of the testing system here after the WBC ruled his failed drug test was not intentional. But that's not the point. He just needs to take his case, in my view, and in your view, and in many other people's view, to the Boxing Board of Control and let them make a decision.
Totally
let them make, and UCAD, and let them... Again, UCAD rather, not UCAD, and make a decision and base his future upon the decision that they make, and just put the evidence there. If he's so sure that he's innocent in this case and something's gone wrong for him, then take the document to the Boxing Board of Control.
Yeah, where we sit with this right now is that Conor Benn will not be able to box on British soil unless he sits down in front of the British Boxing Board of Control. He said, you know, I spoke to Robert Smith about this, and Robert said until he presents his case to us, he will not be boxing here, even if it's under another licence. If he goes and gets another licence abroad, he won't be able to box on British soil until this mess is cleared up. So if he's got all the evidence that he needs, sit down with the Boxing Board of Control, and then you can move on with your career. But until then, you're not going to be boxing on British soil, and he's going to have to take things abroad. And I think that's what will happen. And I think, you know, there's been rumours of him boxing Manny Pacquiao. I know they're in talks right now. That fight will probably take place somewhere in the Middle East, I would assume, because of this situation he's got with the British Boxing Board of Control. So he really needs to clear this mess up with the British Boxing Board of Control. That is where he needs to go.
Well, his argument now is it's nothing to do with the eggs. That was something brought forward by the WBC when they were looking to exonerate him in that way. They found a way to exonerate him, if you like, from knowingly cheating.
Well, the weird thing was with the WBC, they
gave him an out.
Well, they was acting more like a defence as opposed to...
It was a defence. It was a defence.
Yeah, but that was not their job in that situation to act as a defence.
No, it wasn't.
It was very
their job.
strange.
No, but they came up with that reasoning, and he wasn't happy with it.
Yeah.
What he failed to agree with, and that's why he's made the statement, is that the WBC do not see his argument against VADA, and it's a good thing in a way, unless he can absolutely prove with UKAD and the Boxing Board of Control that the way that VADA have conducted these tests is wrong. But, you know, again, he's challenging VADA, he's challenging the WBC, he's challenging the Boxing Board of Control. Who's at fault here? It's not one of them unless he can prove it's one of them that's at fault. So,
Absolutely.
And unless he goes in, for me, unless he presents his case to the Boxing Board of Control under the auspices of UKAD's determination on what's happened here, then he doesn't move forward cleanly in any way.
He doesn't clean his name.
To box here. He doesn't clear his name.
No, that's right.
No.
Yeah. That's the bottom line of it. Like, you know, if he wants to clear his name and try and get the respect of the public back, he needs to clear his name, and by doing that, he can only do that by sitting down in front of the British Boxing Board of Control and presenting his case. Until then, you know, we feel like we're spinning around in circles because we don't really seem to be getting anywhere with it.
No, there's definitely a lot of spinning around in circles, and the simple procedure, I feel like I'm repeating myself here, is he convenes with the Boxing Board of Control and he goes through that process. You and I have both spoken to Robert Smith. They want to, I don't say the word cooperate with him, but they do. They want something from him. I've not seen at any point that the Boxing Board of Control have deliberately penalised him in any way whatsoever. More the other side, that they've been saying we haven't received anything from him. But now he's at loggerheads with the WBC, he's at loggerheads with VADA. Eddie Hearn says he's going to get him out soon, May, June, July. I don't see it at the moment.
Yeah.
I do not see it.
I agree.
But you know, he's broken his silence. It's a very elongated and kind of, I don't know, it's a very difficult saga to understand because there's so many twists and turns. But a reminder, by the way, that Conor Benn has broken his silence and will be heard in an exclusive interview with Piers Morgan. You can watch the full sit-down on Piers Morgan Uncensored this Monday on Talk TV at 8 p.m.